So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. It's education and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at Lifestyle Radio. And now we are also live on Spreaker. That's right. You can catch us live on Spreaker every Wednesday. And I believe all the Lifestyle Radio shows here that are live are also available on Spreaker. My name is Al Graham. As you heard the Killin' Time Band there, I've always enjoyed their music. And as our introduction song says, more of us need to speak up. And tonight we have a guest that has no problem whatsoever with speaking up. Tonight, my joint host is the well-known Alison Myrden. Hi, Alison.
Everybody.
How are you?
Hey, Al, I'm fabulous. Hey, everybody on Lifestyle Radio, and hey, everybody who's tuned into the Pace Radio Show with Al Graham and myself, Alison Myrden, and our fabulous guest. Should I say her name? Our top secret message, Tamara Cartwright. Yay, Tamara!
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
How's everybody doing tonight?
We're
Good.
awesome, honey.
Good.
Good.
How are you, sweetheart? How are you, Tamara?
Oh, we're doing good, Nothing to complain about because nobody listens.
That's what I say too, darling. Who cares? But us, of course.
Sun's shining. That's all that's good, eh?
Hey, awesome. When the sun comes out, so do I, honey. That's the way life works, for sure. But listen, Al, I don't know if you want to start things off. Tamara, you know well, Tamara Cartwright, and so do I. So if you'd like to say a few words, Al, speak up.
Okay, I'll get them in while I can. As we know, Tamara's very active in the community out there. She's involved in many things. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about them. I know that she's into something new as well, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that. I've heard a little bit, but not a lot, so it'd be good to hear it right directly from Tamara.
You bet. Tamara, if we can, not only do we want to introduce our listeners again to your pretty little self, honey, but we'd love if you told us about the Medical Marijuana Task Force to begin our show.
Absolutely. Well, it's a combined effort of 3 national organizations that are all non-for-profits. It's Maritime United for Medical Marijuana, Canadian MCPCA, which is the Medical Cannabis Alliance of Canada, and the CMCT, which is the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners of it's our group that we organized, which was originally the Dignified Access Group. So the 3 of us have come together and formed together this national task force because we all know that the government has given, with the Allard ruling, 6 months to kind of get our program back together. So ultimately, behind the scenes, we collaborated and kicked off on Monday with our website and our Twitter account. And we have Laura McClellan, who's in Kingston, who can get to the Parliament Hill and do a lot of lobbying with politicians and go to consortiums and consultations and be the voice of patients so that we don't get stepped over and looked over with the legalization models that are coming up, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for that. Yes. But we also want to make sure that within the next 6 months, the government is targeted and focused on getting our gardens back. We want our gardens with the Allard ruling.
Yes.
And I really want to see that address change because I'm one of the patients that have fallen through the cracks, and there's thousands of us that are.
As am I, Mara.
So collaboratively, we want to get everybody together. We want to unite and just get one voice, one message out there so that we can actually be heard. So that's what we've done. And like I said, it's a collective effort. There's many of us behind the scenes and many people working very hard behind the scenes to work on websites and commercials and advertisement and trying to get the message out to the politicians. And the health ministers and anybody that'll listen, pretty much.
Yes, actually, I took a little peek at the website earlier, and I'd love for people to check it out again once you're ready to go. But I think it's an awesome thing that you've done, Tamara. Now, again, your fight, like my fight, and Al's and so many others, is mainly for patients, which we'd like to make clear to a lot of the listeners. It's not that, again, none of us, or all of us don't support other uses of, cannabis. But again, those of us that are speaking publicly and tend to be hosts and joint hosts on these types of podcasts are usually patients. So I hate to say it, but patients are the ones that are changing the way for everybody, and patients are the ones who are leading the way down paths like this.
Well, if it wasn't for the patients that fought within the court systems, and that's really how the patients have gotten legality in Canada and pushed forward through, were these court cases, Hitz, Parker, how many others that are, we've gone, Melanovina, there was Myrna, there's, now Allard and the Smith case. Like, there are so many people that have been patients or caregivers that have put their necks on the lines for all these other people, which has paved the way for legalization, which is great. Like I said, I'm all for that. I'm all for adult use and consumption, and I believe that the patients shouldn't be left behind in this whole industry that's blooming in our country.
It's funny, Debbie Stahl-Skiffen and I became friends in 2003, and she's a joint host on this show as well on Lifestyle Radio.
Absolutely. Yeah. And she's a part of this national task force as well. So we've got some real good people on this task force.
Well, I was going to say, too, that Debbie, funny enough, we had started and we fought in Hitzig et al. Together in 2003. And if any of our listeners are interested in that, definitely check us out on Wikipedia. Read a little bit about Hitzig, Hitzig, for Warren Hitzig, the Compassion Club owner at the time that was with us, and the 7 patients, Debbie and myself included, who were fighting this in Canada at that time.
That's right.
There are so many, though, Tamara. You make a really good point, honey. There are so many people.
And we have to give, where credit's due. If it wasn't for the fact that people stood up for their medical rights, we wouldn't be talking legalization. And all the industry that'll bloom off of that, which, like I said, is terrific. I'm not opposed to that in any way, of the matter. But back to our gardens, many of us were left without the ability to grow. My husband and I haven't been able to grow for 2 years. I had the RCMP here the other day, putting us, in complete terror for 24 hours.
Yes.
Because I make candies for myself. And because I show people how to make the tinctures and do things. So, somebody had been, caught with my candies, another medical patient, of course. And it came back onto me, and it's scary to be a patient that has a small child that has to worry about the RCMP, even in the legality that we fought so hard for.
Certainly.
It's terrifying. So if we can't get the message out to these people now, like I said, they were given 6 months to get our program back in order, right? Which means allowing patients to grow. But then we also have another issue with that. We have people that haven't seen doctors in 4 years.
Yes.
We have doctors that have passed away that have signed patients. We have doctors that their hands have been tied because of bureaucratics that can't sign for those patients anymore. With this case, it's going to leave a lot of people that have fallen through the cracks still with that doctor not signing those paperwork. That's another thing we want to make sure that they're aware of. The fact that them not having the research to give to the doctors, to give them protocol to dose, is causing more harm than it is good.
It's funny, I remember Michelle Rainey, God rest her soul, who was a big advocate, as you know well, in this issue. And Michelle used to make up doctors' packages a number of years ago.
We handed out hundreds of those in Alberta. She used to send them to me, and we dropped them off at doctors' offices, and the Fagans in Calgary worked hard dropping off those packages. If it wasn't for Michelle Rainey, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Exactly.
She was a huge impact in pushing me forward. So rest her soul, most definitely. She's her voice is in my head all the time. Again, she's one of the many wonderful souls we've lost over the last number of years
while battling this issue here in our country in Canada. But, again, you touched briefly, I know we have to go for a break in a few minutes, but I did want you to talk about, we actually were in Ottawa again this past year because of Owen Smith, another grower out on Baker, actually, out on British Columbia's coast out there. And Owen actually ended up going to the Supreme Court of Canada with some of the lawyers that we work with, Kirk Tusaw included. And Kirk ended up winning a ruling for Owen that I thought you also might like to talk about, because of the fact that you were caught making these candies and distributing them to the patients.
Right.
So
and when I was asked to come in, and I did contact a lawyer and was told not to go in by the lawyers, and I thought to myself, well, I haven't done anything wrong. My, an understanding is the Section 4 and 5 being struck down, that as long as it's medical to medical, you're okay to do sharing. But here's the thing, there's still that gray fine line. So because if you're not, people don't have the proper paperwork, you shouldn't be doing such things, but there's nothing wrong with teaching them. And the education of showing them how to make their butters and their tinctures and their glycerin so they can do it at home themselves is not a crime. And the RCMP told me that. So if you're educating people, they're fine, and they're not against all medical patients. They're against the people that want to exploit the medical industry and the medical patients and take advantage and not have the proper, documentation or been to a doctor. And that's, a huge obstacle that, a lot of people, like I said, unfortunately have, is getting that proper paperwork. I'm not saying that they don't have medical need. I know hundreds of people that have medical need that, don't have paperwork. And that's the unfortunate thing, is we're still back to that doctor gateway.
Sadly, Tamara, you raise a really good point. There are probably tens of thousands, if not more, people across Canada who are not able to get medical cannabis licenses. And those people are the reasons that people like myself, started fighting over almost 30 years ago. Right. I think people have to realize that not only as patients in this country do we have a choice to use anything licit or illicit, which I try to make clear on almost every show, but we do have the right to use things like cannabis to make us feel better. So again, whether it's licit, legal, or illicit, illegal is not the question. No, that has no bearing. As far as the Constitution goes, that has absolutely no bearing on patients. No. So what we fight, Tamara, again, as you know, is our right to consume anything that makes us feel better. Absolutely. And it just happens to be cannabis that's working for so many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people around the world.
Absolutely. So, and that's why, I'm hoping that with the realm of, because I've got, the line of, well, what's medicinal, right?
Right.
And to me, I think that if somebody would rather take and sit down and vape, or maybe eat a candy or eat a cookie, rather than going and buying Advil at the grocery store, at the drugstore, or wherever, does that make them non-medicinal, or me any more medicinal than them? So, like I said, that's the fine line between recreational and medicinal, and I think everybody's medicinal. I think everybody should have access to cannabis if it makes them feel good and gives them quality of life. So, that's where I think we have to get that point across the government too, that everybody should have access to cannabis.
Yes. Well, again, Tamara, what we, I think, have to focus on again is the fact that we need choice in this country.
Absolutely.
So none of us likes to be told what to do. None of us likes to be told to take pills, and none of us wants to be told to smoke cannabis for the rest of our lives.
No.
But at least if we have the choice, it makes it a little more palpable for those of us, that do have to swallow it.
Right. Absolutely.
So palpable. So, but I think again, honey, and you make a really good point with Owen's ruling. Owen Smith, the medical cannabis baker from British Columbia, Canada, when he won in Supreme Court, he won the ruling for all of us across Canada as patients. Right. Because as you know, Owen was fighting as a baker for patients like us. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important, again, that the work you do gets recognized, Tamara. The fact that you're putting your, risking everything literally as a parent and as an advocate on your own right to do what you're doing gives people like me, humbles people like me, because I don't have children, darling. And I want you to know how much it means to those of us all across the country who do have families that are watching and listening to what we're doing.
And, the children are basically, some children are in need of this medicine too.
Yes.
So, and that's something that, we have to look at as well as a country with compassion. Like, age restrictions and stuff being put on medications. Yes. They don't have a problem putting medications out there like Ritalin and all kinds of other things that they would put them on, but not look at, cannabis as an alternative. And, I think there's a show on Vice that was called Weed Quit, I think it's called.
Yeah.
That was showing, and the interviewer said, yes. I think it's bothersome. These children appear to be stoned, and I'm thinking,
yes.
These children are happily playing in a park. Like, what is wrong with that?
No.
What would be the difference? They're taking something else and they're laying in their bed drooling. Like, what would you prefer? Quality of life for everybody, or pharmaceutical comas? You know what I mean?
How true. I call those, Tamara, I spell out the word PHARMACUT. Because you know what? Pharmaceuticals are exactly what's causing the damage in this world that patients like us are facing. Yeah. So I, again, as you know, I took a lot of pills for a lot of years, and I was that drooling patient laying in bed, not able to move. So I don't wish that on any child or anyone from any age. Now that I am up and speaking publicly, I would never wish that on anybody else.
No, and I think that, that's something that, should be addressed as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, very good point, honey. I think we've had a number of guests in the past, including Mandy McKnight, talking about her son Liam, for example.
Right.
And just as Liam using cannabis as medicine to alleviate his symptoms from Dravet syndrome, from epilepsy.
Right. Right.
Just the fact that it reduces his seizures.
Produce their own medicine for him. Like I said, with the government we have to push this government to get this program going within the next 6 months, because there's people out there that've been waiting for 2 years plus to get their gardens back going. And maybe they don't have 6 more months to wait. You know what I mean? And I know there's other economic issues and the government's busy, blah, blah, blah. There's people dying. People that really need this, to keep going and really keep their quality of life going. And 6 months is too long as far as I'm concerned. We have things set out. The MMAR wasn't a great program, but at least we had our ability to produce ourselves. Yeah. And have somebody, and I mean, designated growers, let's face it, there's some very good ones, and there's some really crappy ones.
Shady ones. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So, but then you're left with a licensed producer, too. So, yes. I mean, there's not going to be any right system or wrong
any expense.
System. Yeah.
Again, Tamara, but that's a very good point again, hun, that you're bringing up for our listeners, because our listeners know, again, so many people, including me, I've been out of a garden for almost 3 years now. I literally am begging on the street every day for medicine.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for people across this country making sure that I was up on my feet and able to do what I do by giving me medicine, there's no way I'd be on my feet today.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were so many that got scared that, didn't continue, or they moved and they couldn't continue, or they were evicted, or look at that poor fellow in Calgary got robbed, for heaven's sake.
Exactly.
And what is that? One out of how many thousands of people that are growing actually get robbed due to a home invasion, but still, the harms and everything that came along with home growing was thrown out with Allard, right?
Yeah.
Their expert witnesses were shown to be uncredible. So I don't understand what the dang holdup would be when we already had a program in place where we could all grow. Let us change our dang addresses and let's get on with this so I can get feeling better. You know what I mean? I can't afford to be putting out the money that we have put out to keep us both going, because both my husband and I have licensing, and there's just no way either one of us
must
can.
Be difficult.
We do the best we can. We manage things very well with what we've got because our child comes number one, which means that we do go without medicine. But that's me and 100 million others in this country right now.
But you know what, sweetheart? This is exactly what we're fighting. That's wrong, Tamara, because you're out, I'm out.
And you shouldn't be without medicine either, right? None of us should be without.
No, exactly.
And that's the thing. I think the government figured with their licensed producers that it was going to just open things up so that anybody that needed it could get it. And that's not what happened. The doctors are still balking at the MMPR. The police are still asking for receipts if people are pulled over with their Tilray cards and asking where's the receipt or the bottle. But we don't have a receipt, this doesn't obviously go with this.
Sure.
So, there's so many avenues of government that has to be informed and on what's going to be regulated, not regulated, who's doing what. And the wishy-washy stuff that we've been getting out of the Liberals really is disheartening to me, because I really supported that Liberal campaign. I campaigned for them. I was out there putting up signs and making phone calls, and and I understand 6 months they've only been in power. I understand things are busy. I understand there's other things that are important. But again, this is something that has to be dealt with, and quickly.
It most certainly does, darling. And I know for a fact people like you are going to make it happen tomorrow.
We're doing our best. Like I said, we have Lori out there on the Hill. She's, I think, heading out tomorrow again. There's a justice meetings and stuff where they're talking about justice. She was telling me today, and I know it kind of slipped my mind. Sorry, this minute. Okay. But ultimately she's going to be up on the Hill, and that's what we need. We need people that have no vested interest other than the fact that they're doing this because it saves their life, right?
Exactly.
And Lori doesn't have any other interest other than the fact that this is her medicine. She needs this to live. She's not looking for a paycheck. She's not looking for somebody to give her anything more than what she damn well deserves. And that's her medicine, right?
Well, so I'll tell you. Sorry, Al. Thanks. Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped in there, but it's break time. It's break time. You guys are just flying right along here. This is great.
Hey, Tamara's an awesome guest.
We've been talking about the task force. So you've been talking about the task force, and tonight, as we go into break, we're going to hear the new task force public service announcement. Plus, we're going to hear from some cats.
Yeah.
And then Alison, our guest, Tamara Cartwright, will continue this discussion when we get back. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show here at lifestyleradio.ca.
Right on.
Right on.
The National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis is a group of not-for-profit organizations dedicated to influencing government policy with factual evidence. Our mission is to ensure that a constitutional medical program is developed that will address the concerns of all Canadians that require therapeutic cannabis. The task force is looking for dedicated people who are willing to contribute to our cause. We have formed this task force to foster a unified approach and focus on lobbying the federal government and Health Canada. We represent the combined expertise of thousands of patients with more than a decade of experience. As a task force participant, you, your business, or your group will have an opportunity to show that you care and offer your unique skills to promote the cause. If you would like to get involved, go to medcanataskforce.org. That's medcanataskforce.org and use the Contact Us link to get started. Help us help you.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Medical Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Medical Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CMCP Society, or search Canadian Medical Cannabis Partners.
This is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
Right.
Hello and welcome back. We are at the Pace Radio Show live here at lifestyleradio.ca. Plus, we are now live at Spreaker as well. A big shout out to all listeners to us who listen to us. Sorry, I got that all mixed up. To the audio stuff at Mixcloud and our friends over at TuneIn Radio. This past weekend, you may or may not have noticed something, but Lifestyle Radio has grown. That's right. They have grown. They have added another live program here. So you can catch the Hippie Lounge with our buddy Lloyd and his friends every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you tune into that program as well. Tonight on the Pace Radio Show, I'm joined by our guest, Tamara Cartwright, a woman with many hats. Plus with my very busy joint host, who is also a lady who has many hats, Alison Myrden. Are you two still with me?
Still with you. Actually, I wanted to say something because we went to break, and that was too funny. Al Rapp, who does the Lifestyle Radio Show, big, huge kiss and squish to you, honey. And shout out to Gary, my partner, Gary Lynch's cousin, Joel McKeag, and his son, Sean McKeag, who is in that band, the Lobcats, who you just played.
All right. Well,
love it. Sean, you're awesome.
People will be hearing more of that song at the next break.
You bet. Well, like I said, funny enough, just on that note too, again, the Lobcats joined the Killin' Time Band and some other bands that we know, awesome bands at Puff Jam 2015 last year, 2014 I think it was actually. So either way, the Lobcats have really made them a name for themselves. So good choice.
Yes, yeah. Enjoy the music, and
Anyway,
it's fun. Go ahead.
Sorry, Al. I wanted to get back with Tamara. Tamara, you are just rocking this tonight. Honestly, honey, you're amazing. But I did want to touch on the fact of the Allard case, too, because little is known about the Allard case in Canada, in so much so the details are still very confusing for a lot of patients. And I don't know if you know as much as a lot of people, but I know that I've been reading an article in the Lift Cannabis News magazine. For anybody who's interested, any of our online listeners, Google search Allard, A-L-L-A-R-D, and Lift, L-I-F-T. The Cannabis News magazine. And one of the first articles you'll see is one called The Allard Case, Where Do We Go From Here? And I didn't know, Tamara, if you wanted to mention a few things. You seem to be really informed on things.
Oh, yeah, sure. So with the Allard case, we everybody won the ruling. Of course, we were waiting on a 30-day window type of deal because of the fact that they could possibly appeal. We're not thinking, I don't think anybody's really looking in that direction. I think they're just kind of going to try and figure out what's going to happen. So the government was then given 6 months to come up with, repealing the MMPR effectively, and then giving them 6 months to come up with how to incorporate patient growing now into this new system that they've got with the licensed producers already in progress and growing, and with the number of licensed producers actually, jumping up to, I think it's 27 now from 23, and other ones in the wings waiting for their licensing to still come into effect, right?
Right.
So with that, though, being said, it still left the injunction in place where if you have moved or you still can't get an address change, there's no way of getting your prescription upped or anything like that. So basically, we're still sitting in the cusp of, Grayville, I guess is the best way of calling it, for the next 6 months until the government just, gets their poop in a group and decides what's going to happen here. So, like I said, hence the National Task Force was, collaboratively put together with the 3 organizations. And, like I said, within those organizations, there's, Roth and Deb Middleton and Debbie Schultz-Giffen and Chris Backer and their whole board and membership, and then Lori and Ellen and I and MCPCA and all our membership, and then the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners and all our membership, and we're asking people to bring forward their stories and stuff. And it's not like we're looking to go and start another court case. We want to be able to bring these stories to these politicians and Lori's on the Hill and say, look, these are the people that you're leaving behind. Now, like I said, we're not trying to overlook the fact that the end result is going to be that there's going to be freedom for recreational use as well, which again, I'll say is terrific. But we don't want to leave these people behind that actually rely on cannabis, right? And there are people out there that actually do rely on cannabis, that do not use any other pharmaceuticals and just have cannabis as their medicine. And those people can't be left behind. And I'm just finding out more and more that along the way that there are thousands and thousands of people that have been left behind even with the Allard ruling.
Yes.
So, it's really heartbreaking to hear some of these people's stories saying that I've been trying for years. A little old lady, 75 years old, my doctor will not jump on board. And where we're going to be left with this whole program, again, helping them along the way with policy. So that's our main goal and objective. But again, we want other people and other organizations to bring forth their ideas and come along with us. It's not like we're exclusively trying to take, one, little area and just go. We would like a unity within the community, really, quite frankly. And have one, one of us, not one, but a group of us, with one voice, one message to the, government saying, hey, we're still here. Our patients were here 5 years ago banging on your door because it was taking us 13 weeks to get a renewal. And, and people were flying thousands of miles and paying hundreds of thousands, dollars to get licensing. Still to this day, to get a paper signed from the MMPR, I'm hearing patients are still paying up to $450.
Oh, I know.
They shouldn't. That shouldn't be happening now. Like I said, they wanted these licensed producers. The licensed producers got what everything went along as planned for their MMPR program. Yet there's still doctors charging $450.
Yes, I know, Tamara. It's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
When
so
you
there's
think
so
about
many different veins to this problem. And where do you even start picking at the scab? Honestly, when it comes to the whole program, right? So, hence, like I said, many minds, stuck together with many, patients and advocates, and hopefully we can come up with some really good, messaging to the government saying, look, this is what we need. This is what we want. This is, and I know there's lots of people out there that have got it written down and have for many years. We need your help. Come on and help us. Come join us. Bring your ideas and your stuff. Come forward. Because, like I said, a small group of people can make change, but a larger group of people makes it a little louder.
You bet we do, my dear. You bet we do.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's important to know that people in the Allard case, again, anybody who's thinking even in the future of possibly becoming a patient, or maybe even doesn't know they need to become a patient and wants the validity of choice, that's again what this is all about, Tamara. We want all of our listeners to know that nobody, not any one of us, is promoting the use of cannabis, in so much so that people listening don't already consume it. What we're advocating is not so much harm reduction as policy change. We want, again, to change the policy of the medical cannabis program to continue to allow patients to grow and to continue to service us with our rights as patients to choice.
Absolutely.
So that's bottom line over anything, as we all agree. So
absolutely on that.
Most definitely. Now, also, as again we've said a number of times, Gary and myself, just under our breath, calling you our little firecracker. You have never stopped any, and now I hear you've been writing for a magazine called 12 High Chicks. Tell all our listeners about that, darling.
Oh yeah,
Tell us about
great.
What's going on.
Yeah, Asia May Moon gave me an opportunity to get my words down on online magazine, 12 High Chicks, and it's gone to print now. So there's the first issue of the best edition in print, and then we're going into the second year of 12 High Chicks second edition. And yeah, it's been really exciting. I've got a great editor, and I put out some pretty decent articles, I think. And I'm, like I said, a year later, I'm pretty happy with it. And it's a nice way of getting out the messages about our groups and our organizations, because it's for patients and everybody. It's a standard online magazine for medical, recreational, whoever wants to read it type of thing. And we're hoping that all the messaging that we get out, because there's a lot of good writers, Jade Ridge and McMahon and Neil Magnuson and Emma Jane. There's and then we have contributions from Tracy Curley and other great activists as well. So there's it's a good magazine too. We're just getting going, second year in, but it's been a great gig. I'm really honored to be writing for it. So
now. One final time, Tamara, honey, where can everybody find 12 High Chicks?
It's at 12highchicks.com. And we have Facebook pages and Twitter and Instagram. And so if you just punch in 12 High Chicks, it'll pop up on your Google, and you can go and check it out. And there's art and all kinds of pictures. And yeah, it's a great little thing we got going on.
Excellent, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you, Tamara.
It's been a long time since I first met you. I think we were talking about that this afternoon too, about how I first contacted you. I think it was back in 2007. Because you were with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. I thought, my mom was I'm a child of law enforcement. I can go speak for these people, right? And that's how you and I first met each other. And then I had the opportunity of meeting you in Ottawa 5 years ago. You and Gary both, and spent some time with you, and it was great. Like, I met Al too in Toronto. So even though I'm out here in the Rocky Mountains on the Alberta BC border in Cranbrook, I've met many of you in person over the years, and I bring you tuck you all a little place in my heart for every one of you. So I can't wait to get back.
Jenny, I love it. I miss everybody. I wish there was such a thing for all the listeners who are tuned in right now, for all of us to meet one day and all of us to have a big reunion. And
it would be great. Yeah.
That would be awesome. One big party would be just
a great big awesome. Party where we all got what we needed, right?
Where we can just sit and chill. That would be so cool.
Yeah. Well, aren't we all getting a little tired of fighting this prohibition? And aren't we all getting a little tired of kicking our heels and having to scream and yell for, really, I know it's a privilege to be able to do this, and a privilege to be able to do that, but why do we have to fight in the courts to do this? It's something constitutionally it should be our right. It is constitutionally our right. Obviously, the courts would not be finding it unconstitutional, so I don't understand why we have to waste so much money and so much time on something that's constitutionally our right to do anyway.
You bet.
Yeah, well, you guys were talking about the case there. Now, with the 30 days for the appeal. Now they got the 6 months that people have to wait. What I'm wondering is, I'm pretty sure I know what the answer to this is, but Alison, I'm sure you'll remember back in 99, 2000. The government actually didn't have a medical marijuana program, and that was required.
They did not.
Yeah, and marijuana was actually legal in Canada for
you bet it was.
So
they called that the summer. They called that the summer of
legalization. Yeah.
The summer of love.
Yeah, they're either going to have to ask for an extension, or they're going to have that program up and ready to go in 6 months' time.
Yeah, and I'm expecting to hear they're going to ask for an extension. To be honest,
right.
I'm being realistic here. We're dealing with the government, and we're dealing with a new government. We're dealing with, of course, old bureaucrats that are still sitting in the same seats that were sitting there when Harper was in. And let's be clear on that. The secretaries and all the staff have not changed.
I was just going to say that tomorrow.
So we're still dealing with the same bureaucratic crap that we've been dealing with for the last 10 years, or more, 20 years, 30 years, 70 years for that matter. And it's just the slow clicking of the clock. And even when like I said, when I was at the RCMP station yesterday, even they said, like, we understand this is happening and we know things are going to change, but it's changing so slowly and our hands are tied and we don't understand what this. And, you know, I'm trying to explain both rulings to them and they're both getting it, right? Like, they're both, like, not being assholes for the first time, you know, in a long time. But they kept those rulings because I said to them, you know, if nothing else, this will then educate you. So the next time you get somebody like me in this, you know, pulled over or in, you know, whatever, investigating, you'll understand what you're dealing with. So I'm hoping that got through. I'm hoping that, you know, that's the end of this and I'm not going to have any more repercussions from it. But yeah, it is what it is. Technically, there's nothing they can do or allowed to possess and, you know, use it in any form. That's the Smith ruling. Section 4 and 5 was struck down. That means we are allowed to share, you know, within reason. Like, we're not allowed to be, you know, I'm sure shelling out thousands of candies. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, let's not get, you know, overwhelming here. But, I mean, sharing is one thing. I mean, when you start profiting off patients, I think that's kind of rank anyways. And I'm, like, charity-wise, you know, I'm not going to incriminate myself. I make them and I eat them myself. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, again, karma is all part of this, and I want people to know that who are listening.
You say karma or caramels?
Caramels are good too.
No, but I mean it. I mean, if you have access and you are listening right now, please do not forget your friends who are battling their critical and chronic health conditions. That is a serious note from me personally, Alison Myrden, just to let people know, because again, I don't mean to bring everyone back down to earth here, but I want people to know if it wasn't for the angels across the country and around the world who have helped me over the decades that I've been doing this, I honestly don't even think I'd be here, let alone still be on my feet. So we love you all, Tamara. Everybody who's sharing, we love you all. That's the way we want to do it.
Okay. I've got to slow us down. It's time to go for another commercial.
You bet.
All right. Tonight, our featured band is the Lab Cats, and you heard Alison talk about them after the last break. And we're listening to their song Coffee and Pot, something I'm sure that many people indulge in daily, right? And then Alison and I will continue this conversation with our guest, Tamara Cartwright. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show here at lifestyleradio.ca.
Right on.
The Pace Radio Show.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Medical Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Medical Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CMCP Society, or search Canadian Medical Cannabis Partners.
Tune into the Pace Radio Show and catch Kim Cooper, Debbie Stoll-Skiffen, or Alison Myrden, along with myself, Al Graham, as we talk to Canadian and international cannabis advocates who are working hard to help patients and to end cannabis prohibition. Catch us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at lifestyleradio.ca. Welcome back, and thanks for tuning into the Pace Radio Show. We are being broadcasted live at lifestyleradio.ca, as well as Spreaker now. That's all new. As well as we're at other locations such as Shoutcast, YouTube, and other social media. Tonight at our breaks, we feature the Ontario-based band known as the Lab Cats and their song Coffee and Pot. If you enjoyed tonight's music, then I suggest that you check out the Lab Cats on YouTube. That's usually where I find a lot of the music that we play here. So tonight on the Pace Radio Show, I'm joined by our guest, Tamara Cartwright, along with her joint host, Alison Myrden. Ladies, earlier I was talking about the two of you wearing several hats. I'm sure we're probably going to get into that in this last segment. How many hats do you wear?
Really? Hey, listen, again, just one more note. I have to give a huge shout out to Sean McKegg and the Lab Cats, because those guys totally rock the house down every time I see them. So check out the Lab Cats, everyone. But anyway, Tamara, honey, yes, you do wear a lot of hats, darling. I thought I had a few, but you're putting me to shame fast. Do you want to talk about, the Medical Cannabis Partners Alliance of Canada that you apparently are on the board of directors of? Is that
yeah. Well, yeah, I'm actually the CEO of the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society, right? And we've got that running since, it's been June of 2014 that we took. It was the original Dignified Access, and didn't change a lot of it. We've kind of changed the mandate just a twig, just to kind of put the gardening and stuff in there, and the fact that everybody should have access to it, and really didn't change the mandate much. We still, lobbying the government to create a home production system, and mandating, to lobby the federal government, which is exactly, what the mandate was. And then I was asked to be on the board of directors for the Medical Cannabis Patients Alliance of Canada with Lori and her group, which is also a non-for-profit organization that's supportive and provide collective voices of for medical patients across the country. So, and then we combine those two, and then MOM, which is Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, which I'm not on the board of directors of anything. I'm very supportive of the group. I've been a Facebook member group of the kind of fringe member for I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. I can't even remember anymore.
Yeah, right.
So, but there's a lot of, little groups and stuff that, originally I started Southern Alberta Cannabis Group, club with, the help of Calgary 420 out of Calgary, and then I moved and at Central Alberta Cannabis, and then now I'm in the East Kootenay, so I got a little group there, so it offers court support to people if they, are going to court and they're scared, they need somebody that might know a little bit more about the law, that have been down that road before, because, a lot of times people get, picked up for a couple joints and they're, terrified. That going to court is terrifying to some people that have never been in trouble before, right?
Right.
So court support is something that I kind of fringely, admired that Debbie Schultz-Giffen and her group were doing at the East Coast, which they do a lot of court support out there.
Yes.
And with McDonald's case and Rob Roy's case and Bob Dylan's case, and now Chris Enns is out there on trial, again, and there's so much going on, in Nova Scotia right now. So and that keeps her, that group very busy and focused on what they're doing, and they're very helpful to a lot of patients. And that's the worst part about it. Every single one of these people that have been, persecuted, same thing as far as I'm concerned, in Nova Scotia have been patients, right? And even like I said, for the incident even here, both patients, there should be no questions asked, it's your medicine, okay.
It's absolutely egregious.
Here's your paperwork, okay, great. It shouldn't be a great big, let's take you down, arrest you, throw the handcuffs on you, and then have to phone Health Canada. And have to verify. And, you got this pink piece of paper that, it's not valid anymore. It's got a wrong date on it. And then they screw you around a little bit more. And it's just, people shouldn't have to deal with police and pot and patients and pot. It just, police, it doesn't go together. Like, it just doesn't work, for me anyway.
Again, sweetheart, I'm really glad that you're speaking out the way you do, because, myself, I don't necessarily agree with how law enforcement is handling this situation in this country. Being a retired corrections officer myself, and having, again, like you, law enforcement all through my family, I don't think I've had one family member who said this is a smart idea to actually fight the war on drugs, let alone, prohibition in general.
Right, exactly. It's a waste of taxpayers' dollars. And like I said, when they're hitting sick people on top of it.
Yes.
And that's, like I said, the worst part about it is if you really looked at the realm of it, okay, let's exempt, the 15 or, 16-year-old kids that are getting busted with a couple joints. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with people that are adults over the age of 25, or some of them over the age of 40 for that matter, that are grown adults
patients.
that have the ability to know what's right and wrong, and they should be able to choose that, not have to be dealing with any of the repercussions of it. It just seems relentless and stupid.
I agree. We don't feel anybody should be in jail, or let alone are incarcerated in any way for choosing drugs, because we feel, at least as many people are aware, that drugs are totally and completely a health issue, bottom line.
Absolutely.
And I think tomorrow, once people realize that and separate the issues of, say, medical cannabis from social cannabis, if they even need to be separated, as many of us have said they don't for many years. But if people need to feel that medically they're in a separate group, which we are, than recreational smokers, then most definitely we need to speak up and we need to fight for what we need.
And that's the thing, and under, a regulated market, you might possibly be able to only have, say, 6 plants personally.
Exactly.
Well, we both know that would be not enough for a medical patient that was using extraction. And that's what I mean. So there's so many different veins of this and how it's going to have to be done properly, so that the medical patients that do need the higher doses, that do need to have the higher plant counts, still have that ability and not to be tucked in with the recreational, because that's I think one of the main fears of most patients is they're going to get tucked in under the recreational umbrella, and they're going to not have to maybe go see a doctor, which might be a little less inconvenient, but not be able to produce the amount that they need, that
they actually require. No, but that's a very good point again, Tamara. Just for our listeners, I wouldn't mind again if you broke down the fact that you use the word extractions. Could you tell our listeners what everything included in extractions is, please?
Well, extractions can be your shatters and your hash and your oils and your RSOs. It can also be used with coconut oil and extracted with lactose, like just regular butter, unsalted butter. It can also be extracted with glycerin. It can be extracted with grapeseed oil. It can be extracted with so many things that are not going to blow your house up, first and foremost, right? You can consume it through baking. You can consume it in savory items. You can throw, butter in a pan and fry an egg in it. And that's what we've got to also get through to the general public, that not everything extracted is toxic. I understand that, some of these waxes and some of these shatters are made with highly expensive, things. And even with using, any alcohol-based anything, you have hazards. But you have to be safe when you're doing this, and don't be doing it in a room without a fan, and, let's be realistic.
No, I agree.
Be smart about when you're doing it, and don't be doing great big huge vats of the stuff unless you're in an area where you've got proper ventilation and you're in an industrial area where you could do that safely. So I think that's another message we have to get out to patients, that because we have this privilege that we won in court, or right that we won in court, or however you want to word, the court ruling with the Smith, yes, you can do this, but go about doing it safely, because we don't want you hurting yourself first and foremost.
Exactly.
Be responsible, but don't make all the other patients out there that are struggling look bad.
I agree, Tamara.
And I love it, the fact that, people are out there and experimenting and trying different things and trying to make themselves feel better. But let's be smart. be, realistic and adult about it, and not, exactly. And when you are doing it, do it safely. And there's many things that you can Google almost any, form of extraction on some site, somewhere on Facebook or somewhere. You're going to find somebody doing it safely, and follow that instruction, or to ask somebody. There's how many of us advocates out there that could walk you through it with no price tag attached to it, right? Like we're not going to charge you to consult to you, helping you make, some extraction.
Exactly, Tamara. Thank you, honey. I wanted to say just one last thing quickly, is if our listeners are looking for ways to not get the high from medical cannabis, there are two ways that I've been talking about most definitely lately that do work. And one is cannabis suppositories, which are not everybody's choice, but secondarily, cannabis tea. I suggest that to a lot of senior citizens because they don't want the effects of the THC.
And you can also get CBD caps, right?
Exactly.
Where it's just CBD that are put in the caps. You can also get capsules with, coconut oil infusion, so you're not actually getting anything that's toxic. So there are many forms and many ways.
Different
forms. Absolutely. And legally, if you have a medical MMPR or an MAR, you can do extractions. And like I said, don't be doing vats of it. I guess that's your personal choice. I'm not telling anybody what to do. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do by any means. But when you're doing it, but know that you're not doing anything wrong as long as you've got yourself.
You're not breaking the law.
No, not since June the 11th of 2015.
Not at all.
They won that Supreme Court ruling. It went to the Supreme Court of Canada. And hence, now, like I said, I don't think the law enforcement actually understand that ruling so much. That's the understanding that I was getting.
Well, you know what, Tamara? It's going to take them a while. I hate to say it, but this country is very slow.
Slow wheels are turning, is what they said. Yeah, slow wheels are turning. Exactly.
They certainly are.
I was going to say, you're talking about alternatives and stuff like that. Every weekend, we're down at the local flea market here.
That's right, Linda's with you.
Yes, Linda's with us.
Linda's one of our board members for the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners. She's great. Yeah, that's right.
She's there. I'm there on Saturday, and she's there on Sunday. We've always got a display of tinctures or lollipops or capsules.
Excellent.
Lately, I've been having a container in there with olive oil.
Do they have jelly beans?
Jelly beans. No, we haven't brought out the candies yet, but we have had a chocolate bar there.
If anybody's listening, I want medicated jelly beans, please.
The worst part about making the stuff, the sweet stuff, is they're still using sugar. Right? They still haven't been able to find an alternative to sugar to be able to set up properly. Like gummy bears and stuff, that's all great. You can make them vegan and organic, and then, but for me personally, because I have to be so careful, my guts are to the point where I can't put anything into them, so I'm just sucking a little bit of that. Makes it so that I'm not really technically eating anything, so it's not coming out. You put gelatin in there, it's got to come out somewhere, right? Yeah, it's not good.
Could you use glycerin as a replacement for sugar? Just out of curiosity.
I've tried that before too, but it doesn't set hard, and you know what I mean. Because the candies are hard, you want them to be hard, because then they've got shelf life, right? If you make a hard candy, then at least you can put it in a jar. It's not going to melt. It's not going to go moldy, right? And that's the biggest fear with baking of any kind, because you're using your milk and your butter and your eggs. Hence, you've got to be really careful with that. Without food safety preparation, skills, you don't want to be sending that out to anybody or teaching anybody how if you don't have the proper skills for food safety, right? So hence why with baking, you got to be really careful. And same with your canna butter. Your canna butter cannot be left out any longer than said butter can be. So if you're not putting that butter directly into your freezer after cutting off a piece of it and then putting it directly back in, you're setting yourself up for bacteria and all kinds of stuff, right? So you have to be really careful when you're doing any food preparation.
Yes, good point.
Yeah, and I know that there's lots of people out there doing it, and I know that lots of people out there, are doing a lot of baking for themselves, and in your own kitchen, that's whatever your food safety preparation, that's your own business.
Yes.
But, if you're putting it out to the public, I know a lot of them out there have got their food safety and are doing it properly.
And that's why there are the laws there are with a lot of the, for example, licensed producers who are making some of these products.
Right. And I mean, exactly. And that should be something that's standard for, like, if you're going to open a restaurant of any kind, whether it was cannabis-based or non-cannabis-based, you have to follow the general, rules prior to. It doesn't make any difference, right?
No, most definitely. So, Tamara, I don't know, honey, how we're doing on time, but I would love for you, again, to run all your websites that you think are obviously as amazing as they are. And I would love for you to share those with our listeners one more time before we leave tomorrow, because you have just been absolutely incredible, honey. It has been my pleasure to connect again with you.
Oh, I really appreciate you having me on the show. It was great being on.
I can't thank you enough, honey. You just, again, you never cease to amaze myself or Gary Lynch in the fact that you are such a firecracker, honey. And we both send a big squish and kiss your way for everything
back at you, for sure. So, yeah, we have our medical cannabis, our Medicana Task Force, and that's at www.medicannataskforce.org. And that's a combined collaboration between the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society, which is at Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.org. And then we also have Medical Cannabis Patients Alliance of Canada, which is
Medical Cannabis Partners Alliance of Canada.
Patients Alliance of Canada, And then there's also, Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana as well.
You bet.
Then, which is MUM, right. So those are the three organizations that have collaborated so far under our task force, our national task force. And that is a national task force on medical cannabis is what we've called it. And I said it's a collaboration of all three organizations, and we'd love to bring, as many more on. PACE is actually one of our sponsors as well as BNA Hydroponics as well. And like I said, we've got some support coming in, and that the donation that we asked for literally is just for Lori's trip to the Hill, which is $50 for fuel and her parking. So
fabulous.
And we're not asking for big donations of any kind. We're just making sure that we can get her there as many possible times as possible. Yeah. And we have had donations from MUM put money in towards her her trips, and CPCP has put money in towards her trips, and MCPCA. We all put a chunk of money towards it, so she can get going, right?
Excellent.
And that's what we have to do: collectively put your money where your mouth is, as you want to put it. If you want somebody up there talking to the politicians, we have to have somebody close, somebody that didn't have any more than a vested interest, except for the fact that she needs it for her own life.
Exactly.
Right. So we're not paying any big fancy lobbyists or anything. She's our lobbyist, we have on the Hill, and I think she's effective, and she's been doing this a long time as well. So I think that she's got a good handle on what she needs to be done, and we have people in the background. Like I said, all our board, MUM's board, we're all collaborating in the background, talking and bringing as many patients' voices with us as we go. Right.
Excellent.
And that's the ultimate goal.
Honestly, honey, again, you never cease to amaze me. Do you ever stop, honey? And again, as listeners might not be aware, you also have your own family going. So you've got a lot of things on.
I got a 6-year-old and 6 dogs and 4 cats and a bunch of ferrets, and it's
you never stop. I know.
You still got a hobby for him.
I don't know how to turn it off. I'm trying.
Y'all look out! You're going to be a me in 20 years.
Well, my body's not feeling as good as it used to, but like I said before, there's for the ones of us that have got the voices that can speak for the ones that can't, that's what we're supposed to be doing, is listening and taking those voices with us, and that's what we want to do.
Right on. Well, you know what, honey, again, it has been just our pleasure, as always, to speak to you, sweetheart, and I can't wait to do it again. So
thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. But I know that Al again has things he wants to say to you as always. And again, just the fact that the listeners are listening to people like you, people like yourself, and even people like us, debating this issue and talking about things the way we do. We want to thank again all of the listeners for tuning in to Lifestyle Radio. And again, don't forget about that new show on Sundays, guys.
That's right. The Hippie Lounge. It's Hippie Lounge.
Well,
Tamara, you've already rounded up a bunch of your websites, and this is the point where I usually ask everybody, about promoting their website.
So she just did.
Yeah, I know she did. So How about a person? You got a person you'd like to promote or thank or something like that?
Well, there's so many of them out there. It's hard to pinpoint one. Like I said, we've got a great team of people working at this national task force. And behind the scenes, like I said, we've got Ross and Deb Middleton, and there's Debbie and her group, and then there's Ellen, and again, Lori and myself. And, we've got patients that are, anonymously sending us letters and stuff and letting us know what they want to be said and what to be done. And Pace with Al and Linda, like Houghton, too, she's out there, plugging down at that flea market every weekend with Al, with Pace. You guys all need a big big kudos to everybody out there that has been working so diligently hard over the last, I've been involved for almost 10 years myself.
Wow.
And I've known most of you that long too. So, I mean, we're still all here. We're still all plugging away for the patients and for the rec users and for everybody to have freedom for a plant that is, that should be just free. And that's just the way I feel.
You know what? Al, I just want to say one thing. When I started this fight for legalizing medical marijuana, etc., or cannabis as medicine, and many years ago that I did, I was told by one of the first pioneers ever to speak in this issue, Jim Wakeford, that it was a lonely road that I would be traveling for the number of years that I would be fighting this. You know what I did? I turned around that day, Al and Tamara and everybody else, and I invited all of you. So I know, as I always say, together we will make a difference.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. You betcha.
Okay, I've asked Tamara the question of the evening with the shout out, Alison. Have you got somebody you'd like to throw a shout out to?
Oh, hey, I just want to say again, I want to say a big thank you to all my angels who are helping me live every single day of my life without all these pharmaceuticals that I have to take. And I want to say again, a big shout out to Gary Lynch and all of the website work he does for me at AlisonMyrden.com and everything else that people do for me every day of my life. I love and thank you all.
Thank you, Alison.
Thank you.
Just a reminder to let everybody know that I will be back next Wednesday with my joint host, Kim Cooper, and her scheduled guest, my friend and a person many know, and that's Georgia Tunes.
Awesome.
And she is most certainly a person who promotes the end of cannabis prohibition.
You bet her, son. Beautiful.
That's right. Okay, you can find Pace on Twitter at Pace Radio, and you can also like us on the Pace Radio Show on Facebook. We can be found on the web at pace-online.ca, or you can find us by searching for what we are, people advocating cannabis education.
Yes,
That's right, aren't we? Thank you going to our sponsor, the friendly and helpful folks at BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Al Rapp of Lifestyle Radio.
Right on, Al.
Also, a big thank you to our guest, Tamara Cartwright, a lady with many hats, and I'd spend the next half hour reading them all off to you. And to joint host, Alison Myrden. Plus, a thank you to our listeners. Thank you for tuning into the program.
Thanks. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.
The National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis is a group of not-for-profit organizations dedicated to influencing government policy with factual evidence. Our mission is to ensure that a constitutional medical program is developed that will address the concerns of all Canadians that require therapeutic cannabis. The task force is looking for dedicated people who are willing to contribute to our cause. We have formed this task force to foster a unified approach and focus on lobbying the federal government and Health Canada. We represent the combined expertise of thousands of patients with more than a decade of experience. As a task force participant, you, your business, or your group will have an opportunity to show that you care and offer your unique skills to promote the cause. If you would like to get involved, go to medcanataskforce.org. That's medcanataskforce.org and use the Contact Us link to get started. Help us help you.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual